Life has its challenges. There are problems virtually always. You solve a problem, even the solution to that particular problem can present a new set of problems. You are happy today that you are a graduate, you just graduated out of university. After your youth service, of course, you're also happy that you are through with your youth service. The next day, you wake up unemployed. So having solved the problem of your 4 year tertiary, 4 or 5 year tertiary education, you wake up and then you're unemployed. You start looking for work, and then you get this work, and then you have a problem of navigating the landscape in your work environment, your relationship with your colleagues, your boss, the politics that is played at work, and so on. Set of problems in your family right now. There are a couple of challenges that just beset that family. So there are challenges always, and this is not unique to anybody. Everybody has a set of peculiar problems. Every family, every organization, every group, every country. But there's a way we go about this problem that in a way looks as if we are running out from the very ones that we should be confronting. For instance, I don't think it is proper to look at solving bigger problems when you've not addressed the problems that are besetting you personally. Let's say you have your own personal problem. There are a couple of problems beseeching you that's in your front that you can tackle, that you should tackle, your personal problems. Do you abscond from them? Do you run away from confronting those problems and then, as a means of escapism, you now go on to solving bigger problems like becoming an activist for climate change, global warming and all the rest? In fact, I don't think if you have not been able to confront and tackle or solve your personal problems, I don't think you are in the right position to even bring up solutions for bigger problems like climate change. I mean, climate change is it is not something that someone who has spent his life running away from his personal problems should be talking about. But some so-called activists seem to be using their activism as a means of escape to addressing their own personal problems. If you have problems in your family, your immediate family, you have problem, maybe unemployment, have problem with finances, have problem in your relationship, these problems are just in front of you. You ought to give attention to them first. Attempt to solve them. And then if you're able to solve them, there is something you learn. You are wiser, you are better, you've grown. And then you can take up more challenge. Maybe someone who has, who has a stable relationship going on, who has a good means of employment, who is employed, who has at least a good dynamic, a good play, or who has something good going on in his relationship, in his family, and so on. Someone who has these areas under control can then talk about taking up the challenges in a group or taking up the challenges in a community. Someone who has reasonably gone far in that area with success can then talk about taking up the challenges of a state, taking up the challenges of, and if you are successful at the state level, you can talk about taking up the challenges at the level of the country. There is this graduation, this gradual movement where you are taking up responsibilities, you are solving problems, and then you are moving higher. But you cannot afford to tackle bigger problems or go for bigger problems when the very quote unquote little problems in your front that you yourself ought to deal with, you run away from them. Do not use activism as a means of running away from your personal problems. Solve the problems. Attend to the problems that are in front of you first. Solve those ones immediate to you, those ones around you, those ones you know that you ought to give your attention. Don't run away from them. When you are reasonably through with that, when you have attained a level of success in solving those ones, you can then think of taking up bigger problems. In fact, you have the right knowledge, you'll be in a better place, you'll be a better person to tackle those bigger problems that you would want to go after when you have attempted reasonably and even solved to a good extent your personal problems.